What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video, as we are here for another Ring of Honor Wrestling TV review, episode number 77 to be exact. The Lucas special, I guess you could say, because that is the only thing that comes to note when I think of the number 77. And this was a very loaded and long episode of ROH, 2 hours to be exact. 5 pages worth of notes, and they labeled this episode as a championship edition of ROH, as we had the world title on the line, the 6-man tag team titles on the line, and another championship on the line, but it was an impromptu match, so I'll have to classify it later in the review. But the first matchup on this episode was the world title match. Mark Briscoe defending against Johnny TV. Now, the very first thing that we see on this episode of ROH is Board of Directors member Paul White talking about the excitement level in ROH right now. And when he is interrupted by Taya Valkyrie and Johnny TV, who all of them mentioned their connections to Hollywood. Paul White was in The Waterboy. He was also in Knucklehead. He's probably been in other movies. Johnny TV, they bash in their Hollywood glory, and he kind of, kisses up a little bit to ask for a world title match, which obviously, again, if you see the thumbnail of the video, you know that match happens, and it was the first match to happen on this episode. So Mark Briscoe versus Johnny TV for the world title. Here we go. Headlock and armlock attempts from both to start the match off. Taya distracts Mark, which leads to Johnny having the advantage and grounding his opponent. A Shining Wizard by Johnny gets a 2 count. Then he lands several more kicks, which I am fairly certain that one landed right on the nose of Mark Briscoe and looked pretty damning, but he is able to power out of it and land a pair of clotheslines, a Uranagi, and a drop kick to the outside. Now, before he gets able to follow up on any of this, Taya gets in the way of Johnny, which prompts the referee to send her to the back and distracts Johnny TV, and they go back into the ring. Once back in the ring, Johnny hits a Starship Pain for a 2 count. The two exchange chops and forearms, with the master of Redneck Kung Fu coming out on top of this and winning the matchup with AJ Driller. Very enjoyable opening match, and especially for the world title. A good world title match, I guess I should say. Next matchup, a very fast-paced matchup, that being Blake Christian versus Lio Rush. We had a lot of stuff that happened in this match. Christian goes for a roll-up immediately to start the bout. The two go back and forth until Rush lands a pair of dives to the outside, and then Christian lands one of his own into the ring, injuring Rush's shoulder. Christian follows this up with a stomp onto Rush's shoulder, 2 spinning kicks, and then Christian goes for a springboard 450, but Rush moves out of the way. Christian then again targets the shoulder, this time slamming Rush's shoulder onto the apron. Christian then dives onto the outside, which is just to set up a tombstone, and then finally hits the springboard 450 once they're back in the ring. Rush powers out of the pinfall attempt while the two are running off. They're running back and forth off the ropes with seeing who can come out on top of that being Rush, and he hits a cutter. Now, this is a very confusing move if you don't see it, so I'm going to try my best to explain it. But Rush bounces off of the bottom rope, hitting a cutter, and wins the matchup after that. Christian is a sore loser, and he does not want to deal with the Code of Honor after the match, so Lio Rush wins this match. Then we see Athena, the longest reigning women's Ring of Honor World Champion, come out. Very close to being one of the longest reigning champions in the longest reigning champion in Ring of Honor history. I don't know the exact days, but they mentioned it several times. But she comes out to the ring with Billy Starks as we are in for some live minion training. And Athena speaks while Starks is forced to do sit-ups. And then Starks asks why Lexi does not have to do any of this. I imagine it has to deal with her graduating from MIT. And Starks did, but the diploma was revoked. Check last week's review if you want to know more about it. But Athena further explains that Lexi is not out here because she was the reason that she retained the championship at Death Before Dishonor. Before anything else could happen, Abaddon interrupts with Athena slowly backing out of the ring and forgetting the championship and having to slowly inch to get the championship back. Later on in the episode, Melissa Santos interviews Athena and asks, was she afraid of Abaddon? And then pretty much says, no, I don't know why you would ask it, and makes Billy Starkz get the car. That way they don't have to deal with any of this crap, especially being upset about not being interviewed by Lexi Nair. We get another backstage segment, this one from our World Heavyweight Champion Mark Briscoe. He is joined with Tomohiro Ishii. He just stands there, does not say anything, and he acknowledges his victory earlier in the episode against Johnny TV, but he is still thinking about the loss that he took at a 6-man tag match a couple weeks ago on Collision by being beaten by the Beast Mortos, and very, 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 very much wants a one-on-one match with the Beast Mortos and insists that it is for the World Heavyweight Championship. You'll have to find out later if we get this match or not. Next matchup, Arya Daivari versus Katsuyori Shibata. Shibata does not take long to get Daivari in an armbar and a leg lock, with Daivari running away out of both submission attempts. Daivari gets some offense in after a distraction by Nice on the outside. Like I said, this was a long-ass episode of ROH. Several matches. If there is somebody accompanying somebody to ringside, the person at ringside calls a distraction for the opponent. I'm not 100% certain, but the opening match had happened. This match had happened. There's a matchup later that it happens again. Just something to keep note of, because I had to write this down several times, obviously. Shibata fires back with some chops. Daivari hits a splash off the top rope for a 2 count. Shibata sets up for the penalty kick, but Nice grabs his legs. The referee sees the impact of it and tries to throw Tony Nese and Mark Sterling out, but Shibata was not really that affected by it, as he is able to attack both men, and then applies the Iron Claw onto Arya Daivari and wins the matchup with an armbar. So it is very nice to see Shibata competing, obviously. Next, we go backstage to see the MXM collection as they are backstage touching tips. Before they are too deep into the message they are going to provide, they are interrupted by Maria Kanellis and Griff Garriosn, who insist that Griff Garriosn joins them and forms a trio, as she put it, a menage a trois. And they think about it and want to see how Griff Garriosn touches tips. And instead of touching MXM's tips, he grabs them and scares them away. And we do not get this trio. So there's that. Harley Cameron versus Viva Van up next. It is a back and forth bout, with Harley hitting a Soul Fu backbreaker combo that I thought was going to end the match, but it was just a close 2 count. What does end the match is Harley Cameron's Shining Wizard. This was very enjoyable, just not very noteworthy. As now, if you watched last week's episode of ROH, it was a very hot episode, hot in my room, and I took a lot of that anger out on one particular thing, and I still feel the same way, even though it is not as hot right now. But the on-again, off-again rivalry we've been seeing in Ring of Honor since freaking December potentially concludes tonight. I'm hoping concludes tonight, as right now we have Serpentico versus Griff Garriosn. If you want me to run down the rivalry, I'll give you some quick notes. I'm not going through everything, because guess what? It's so stupid. I think that, I'm trying to be nice about it, but I've hated it. I don't know why I really hate it. I think I hated it because, in my opinion, it's just been so stupid and taken so long that it took way longer than it needed to. But long story short, back in December, Griff Garriosn, Cole Carter, Serpentico, and Angelico teamed up in an 8-man tag, and their team lost. And Cole Carter and Griff Garriosn were upset about it, and then attacked Spanish Announce Project several times. They had several tag team matches, with most of the time Cole Carter and Griff Garriosn coming out on top. The rivalry got spicier once Griff Garriosn and Cole Carter stole Serpentico's mask. Again, this was in December. And again, I think this rivalry has been stupid. The conclusion of this match kind of solidifies it, and I'll explain it once we get to the end. So I am very much hoping this is the last time I have to talk about these two men being involved together. And like I said, here we go. Serpentico versus Griff Garriosn. Serpentico dives to start the match off. He keeps the attack going until Maria causes a distraction, which is the third time that a manager is interrupted in a match tonight. But the match has not officially started because all this was on the outside, obviously. Garriosn dominates when the match officially starts and then knocks the referee down, which allows Angelico to come out because the stipulation was that Angelico cannot come out to ringside, and he brings in a chair, and Serpentico hits Garriosn with the chair, which was a nice tie-in backstory because in one of the matchups that they had, the chair, several of the matches that they had, chairs were involved. It takes a while for the referee to cover to make the pinfall count, but once the pinfall actually happens, it's just a 2 count. Then Garriosn takes the mask off of Serpentico again, and I missed it. I'm not going to say I missed it, but I'm like, he took the mask off of him just to realize that Serpentico had another mask on. And realizing this, Serpentico is able to hit a frog splash and win the matchup. And again, I hope this ends this freaking rivalry. Now, I think this rivalry has been stupid. I think the longevity of it did not help it. Now, the reason I think this is stupid, the conclusion. A, the whole stipulation was that, hey, Angelico cannot come out. He comes out, the referee comes to his senses, and Angelico is still out there. So, like, I'm not trying to extend this anymore, like, overturn it, which is like, that part was stupid. Cole Carter, who was a part of this whole freaking rivalry, was not there at the damn conclusion. Now, it can tie into whatever himself and Griff Garriosn does next. Hell, I don't even know if Cole Carter's going to come back. If he doesn't, I'm not crying about it. Saying 3. This is the thing that has made me the most mad, and I even wrote a note about it. Serpentico has 3 freaking masks now. So why did the original mask matter if he got freaking 2 others? And the freaking one that he wore and he's been wearing for months and months, just the plain black one, looks badass. I understand wanting to get your possession back, but now it's like having a car. I was going to make an extremely stupid comparison, but it's like having a car. You got 2 others. One of them got stolen, but you got the other 2. So it's not like you are desperate to get this other car back. Again, I know that's a stupid comparison, but also, you're not going to put all 3 of your cars at the same place at once, where you can't drive both cars at once. You should be wearing both masks, This stupid-ass rivalry has got me overthinking. I think the simple solution would have just been to never freaking do it, and I hope I don't have to talk about it again. If I do, it's just going to be more sass and anger coming out of me. As our next matchup, it was very enjoyable. Anthony Henry and Beef, the second cousins by marriage, versus Vinny Marcero and Dante Leon. Henry and Leon start the match off. Henry lands some chops, and then Beef tags in, landing some more chops, these being energetic and powerful. And then Henry wins the matchup for the team with a straight jacket suplex onto Leon. So now we have a proving ground bout for the Pure Championship. Lee Moriarty versus Action Andretti. Andretti's first rope break attempt comes very quickly, and his second one does as well, as he's trying to get out of an arm lock and a body lock. Moriarty targets the arm and shoulder of Andretti, setting up Andretti to use his last rope break attempt. Moriarty lands a closed fist, which in the Pure rules you are not allowed to do, and he's arguing with the referee. This sets up Andretti to hit several dives onto the outside onto Moriarty. Moriarty uses his first rope break attempt after he is being put into a sharpshooter once they're back in the ring. Moriarty locks in the Border City stretch, and Andretti tries to reach for the ropes, but all 3 rope break attempts were used, and he finally reaches the ropes and couldn't do anything else but tap, meaning that Moriarty wins this matchup. There's no code of honor, as they keep hinting at the tension between Shane Taylor Promotions and Top Flight and Action Andretti, even though the other members of Shane Taylor Promotions and Top Flight weren't out for this match. So we'll see if this beef rivalry feud continues. Hopefully it does not go on for 9-10 months. As we get backstage comments from Layla Hirsch from Death Before Dishonor, which made me realize that Death Before Dishonor was already 2 weeks ago, and that she just mentions that she is way tougher than meets the eye, and that she is willing to challenge anyone in Ring of Honor, and that they should check out the match from Death Before Dishonor, which I very, very, very much enjoyed. As now, we have a TV title match, our second title match of the night. Atlantis Jr. versus Robbie Eagles. Robbie Eagles, earlier in the episode, had comments about his matchup last week, and that it was an extremely easy bout, and it is way easier, and the competition is way easier than the ones that he watches on TV, specifically Ring of Honor TV, and that he thinks that he's ready for a title match that obviously he gets right here. Atlantis lands a Hurricane Rana. Eagles lands a dive to the outside, and then once they're back in the ring, Eagles keeps his opponent grounded by targeting the leg and ripping at the mask of Atlantis Jr. Atlantis lands a super kick into a suplex for a 2 count. He misses a frog splash attempt, and then the Ron Miller special leg lock by Robbie Eagles is locked in. Atlantis powers his way to the bottom rope. Atlantis lands a backbreaker, hurting both because of Robbie Eagles targeting the knee of Atlantis Jr. The two then attempt several roll-ups, and then Eagles goes for a Shiragoye, but Atlantis Jr. reverses this into a torture rack that Eagles is not able to get out of, and he taps out, meaning that Atlantis Jr. retains. Commentary, mainly Ian Riccaboni, even mentioned that the torture rack was a maneuver that Atlantis Sr., Atlantis Jr.'s father, used several times, so a bit of an homage there. As now before our main event matchup, Paul White grants Mark Briscoe his world title match, so next week it will be Mark Briscoe versus the Beast Mortos for the World Heavyweight Championship, a matchup I am very much looking forward to. But during this, Tony Nese and Ari Daivari interrupt, saying that here we go with Ring of Honor giving out opportunities, which is, this was a terrible, this whole segment made Ari Daivari and Tony Nese look stupid, because Paul White himself even mentions, you lost your match tonight. Tony Nese lost his match last week. Like, what have they done to get a title match? So thank you, Paul White, for pointing out the obvious. And he says that if he beats Lio Rush next week, that maybe a title match might come into play. Again, the other thing is, like, the Beast Mortos, like, earned a title shot because he pinned a champion. He pinned Mark Briscoe. That, that logically makes sense. And the champion himself was like, hey, I owe it to this guy. So I don't know why this was even called out or even set up, and why I spent so much time on it. That's because we're here for our main event. 6-man tag team title match. Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs defending against the Cage of Agony. Ross and Karn's... I wrote down Korn. Actually, I didn't. I wrote down Khan. K-A-U-N. It definitely looks like Korn, the band. That is not the case. We're 17 minutes in. I'm getting hot. I'm getting heated. Ross and Khan start the match off with a back up, with a lock. Jesus Christ, we're getting terrible. I said back up, lock up. Let's just restart. Ross and Khan, take 3. Ross and Khan start the match off with a lockup. Soon they both tag out, and the Cage of Agony keep Marshall close to their corner, even Marshall taking a big tumble to the outside. He is eventually able to get Dustin Rhodes to tag in, who hits a crossroads on Cage, and then later hits a Canadian Destroyer on Cage for a 2 count. Now, this was an extremely quick match, because before anything else could continue, the Undisputed Kingdom and the Dark Order come in and attack everyone, but I guess what happens, it definitely makes it seem like they attacked everyone, but the ending sequence doesn't. So we get a no contest. I will admit, I'm not going to say I saw it coming, but I was like, I don't really see either side losing this match, which is exactly what happened. So I was kind of half right. Sammy Guevara, the Spanish Announce Project, and Fuego del Sol come out to the ring. And the episode ends with the Dark Order, the Cage of Agony, and the Undisputed Kingdom standing tall over everyone. So I don't really know why the Cage of Agony were okay with this. This is why I was kind of alluding to a couple of seconds ago, because they weren't on the path of losing the match. They just got cost their title match. Why are they standing tall with these guys attacking? Better yet, why the hell are they even attacking and getting involved in this? I don't really know. This is a random cast of characters to end a episode of ROH, and kind of a wet fart of an ending, because this was a very loaded and good episode, and this is the way that they ended it. So I have no clue what will happen or follow after this. So that was the end of this episode of Ring of Honor, the 77th episode. I think that they already taped next week's episode, because I know for certain they have taped Mark Briscoe versus the Beast Mortos, because they advertised that match last week. And I thought that was going to be the match this week, but we're waiting a week for it. I'm not going to complain that much about it. And next week is All In week, so it's going to be an extremely busy time for the roster, so I can understand them already had taping next week's episode. So I will see you for that episode next week, the 78th episode of Ring of Honor Wrestling. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Only a few mess-ups, only a few heated moments, not as much as last week. So we're going to try our best next week to not have any. But if we have a rivalry continuing that should not, then I can't make any promises. But I will say, I hope that you liked the video. You comment, subscribe, you stay safe this weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to get some water. I'm out.